Unless you live under a rock, you've probably gotten wind of the fact that the WHO has recently declared that the monkeypox outbreak is now a global health emergency. So, does this mean we have to lock down once again? Do we have to contact trace and social distance? Do we need to flatten the curve for 2 weeks? Or perhaps do we have to take a specific medication 4 times once again in order to curb the infection and prevent the spread? Who knows? Those are questions that are not really for me to answer. I'm just here to illuminate the facts. So let's just dive into that. So, monkeypox is a rare disease caused by an infection with monkeypox virus, and it's endemic in several parts of Africa, particularly Central and Western Africa. West Africa. Although there have been reports of the disease being reported in other parts of the African continent, which is normally the case. So in Europe, the first confirmed case has been in the UK several months ago. The virus has been found in a person who recently traveled to Nigeria. And here's the juicy part, okay? Um, this fact has been casually omitted by the media for obvious reasons because of political correctness or the fact that they don't want to stigmatize a particular group. So the cases have exploded in Europe because of these raves involving a particular group under the banner of rainbow flags. You probably know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna flash it here on the screen. So yeah, that's a fact that they haven't really paid attention to, or they've omitted out of convenience. But we'll get back into that later. So let's look at the symptoms surrounding this specific disease. So, fever, rash, intense headaches, back pain, muscle aches, swollen lymph nodes are common symptoms associated with the monkeypox. And here's another very common symptom with regards to monkeypox. Skin eruptions are also reported in patients of monkeypox, which begins within 1 to 3 days of appearance of fever, according to the WHO. So these rashes tend to be more concentrated on the face. Apart from the face, it also affects palms of the hands and soles of the feet, oral mucous membranes, genitalia, as well as the cornea. Excuse me. So let's look at the incubation period. The incubation period, so this is the interval from infection to the onset of symptoms of monkeypox, is usually from 6 to 13 days, but it can also range from 5 to 21 days. Now let's look at the more interesting aspect of monkeypox, the numbers. So at the time that I'm recording this video, there have been 14,000 confirmed cases of the virus and 5 deaths worldwide in the past 3 months. Well, looking at this data from an outsider's perspective, 5 deaths. Does that really is that really enough to prompt the WHO to sound the alarm, to consider it as a global health emergency? Really, I'm not saying that these deaths are not serious, and it sucks for the family members of these victims. But what are the parameters for a global health emergency? 5 deaths, really? You'd expect it to be much more than that, right? Uh, but yeah, I'm just looking and examining at the facts here. And perhaps other people can reason out that, look, the reason why they've sounded the alarm is because they don't want hospitals to be overwhelmed. They want countries to be prepared for this. Or they don't want more cases to explode. Or they don't want more deaths to follow. That's also perfectly reasonable. But something that they've clearly omitted once again, and this is a fact, okay? And I think the reason why they're omitting this specific fact is because, again, they don't want to stigmatize a specific minority group. But hey, look, if you're the EMA, if you're the FDA, if you're the CDC, if you're the WHO, your job is first and foremost to lay out the scientific and medical facts, irrespective of whether or not they supposedly stigmatize and um, put a specific group of people in a bad light. Who cares about that? Your job is to save lives and to prevent the next outbreak, epidemic, or pandemic. So, this specific fact that I'm talking about is that 98% of the cases involve men who've had a special romantic operation with other men. You've heard that right. 98% of the cases involve men who've had sex with other men, which is a very important fact if you think about it, because just looking at this fact alone, and the fact that it primarily spreads between, the way it spreads between humans is by way of sex, through bodily fluids and prolonged physical contact with someone who has rashes and clear symptoms of the virus. Well, just looking at these facts alone, you can see that a lot of people are really low risk when it comes to this disease, right? Look, I have nothing against these men doing their own thing, but if the media, in the news articles, the scientific journals, they don't report facts the way that they should be, the way they are, rather, we're gonna have serious problems here, and we're gonna have to question what are the priorities of these establishments in the first place. I mean, with respect to the media, fine, because they're pushing an agenda. But if you're the WHO, if you're the CDC, if you're the EMA, again, I've already mentioned this. Your job is to report the scientific facts. But yeah, that has now been dialed down because we're trying to promote a specific ideology or agenda. Anyhow, so for the prevention, if you really want to stay away from this disease, just don't have sex, okay? And don't be in prolonged physical contact with someone you suspect possesses the virus. And this is rather easy if you think about it, because the lesions in the skin, I mean, that's a telltale sign that somebody has it, right? So when you think about it, the risk of contracting the virus and it spreading, it's relatively low. Yet they're still dialing the hysteria upwards because you can garner a lot of eyeballs by doing so. And despite these facts surrounding this virus, the US still procured a lot of vaccines several months ago in order to prepare for this. Yeah, to me, it doesn't really make any sense. But looking at the way that they've handled the previous pandemic, I'm not gonna be surprised if suddenly a few weeks from now or a few months from now there's gonna be a more contagious and virulent strain, and perhaps there's gonna be a new vector of transmission uh, besides by way of sex through by way of bodily fluids and prolonged physical contact. Who knows? I mean, anything is possible at this point. I really wouldn't be surprised if aliens come tomorrow, given the things that have occurred in the past 2 years. So, what can we learn from this? Well, obviously, just don't read a headline when you read a scientific journal or a news article. Read everything and deliberately seek out information that goes against your beliefs so that you can see whether or not your beliefs are actually robust, or do they crumble in face of a little bit of criticism, right? And the last thing I want to take note of is when you get a knee-jerk reaction, a strong emotional response, especially when that emotion is fear, out of a news article or a headline, just take a step back, analyze it calmly, analyze the surrounding facts around said article. Don't jump to conclusions, and don't take things at face value. Just question more. Because the more questions that you ask and the more that you examine things in depth, the closer you are to the truth. The closer you'll get to the truth, rather. So yeah, hope this helps.